All that would like to join us in pledge of allegiance, that'd be wonderful. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Mayor Smith,
Present.
Alderman Villier, present. Alderman Hill is out, Alderman King,
Present.
Alderman Lancaster,
Present.
Alderman Swatash, out, and Alderman Wilson. Thank you.
Item number 3, any agenda changes, Wes?
Nope, not today.
All right, you better. Item number 3, the consent agenda.
I approve item number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were, I'm moving right along.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
A second. Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier? Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, item number 3, the consent agenda. If everybody's had a chance to look at that, or there are no questions, can we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a first and a second. Alderman Villier? Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 4, current outstanding invoices, checks, and drafts paid invoices for October, November of 2024.
We did have some additional ones here. One was by necessity, it was for the certificates of participation. They like to get their money, so we put that one on there. Since we're putting that one on there, we put some additional invoices that came in just to clear the books before we head into Thanksgiving. So you'll see a total of 8 additional invoices on your list there. Or should be 8.
Animal control expenses, are those billed back to the owner of the animal?
That's a good question, and they were all, when we looked at it, there were a lot of old invoices on there. Just the,
Right, this is for over a year, they hadn't billed us on it.
and do those usually get billed to the owner? Can you speak to that?
Pardon?
Do those usually get billed back to the owner? Can you speak to that? I'm not familiar with that process.
Usually they bill us regularly, but.
No, I mean, do we bill the owner back for the expenditure of having to have animal control?
No, we do not.
I'll look at that.
Is that a ticket or?
Because usually they don't know who it is.
Hmm.
It's the reason they're taking them to the impound. They don't know who the dog belongs to.
Okay. If the dog is picked back up, do we make sure we bill that back to them? Just say, it's not enough to worry about, but.
We'll look at it.
Might be enough to dissuade those who habitually let their dog out, though.
Mhm.
'Cause I know we do have a few, we do have a few of those.
Well, we do issue dog at large tickets, so I
Yeah,
would think it would be the same concept if you have a dog that's running.
well,
If we have to pay to pick them up,
reimbursed
then
for
when you go
whatever we're
pick them up,
charged.
you need to pay us
Right,
back,
yeah.
so.
I'll see what more I can find out on it and let you know next time.
Perfect.
Looking for a motion here?
If you're satisfied, yes, ma'am.
Make a motion that we, set the current outstanding checks, invoices, and drafts paid.
Second. Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier? Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, number 5, citizen input. Is there anybody that would like to come forward and say anything? Having seen none, we'll close citizen, or section number 5. Section 6, an ordinance accepting the 2025 proposed budget.
Of course, this will be a first read, so if you're satisfied, you can vote to signal intent if you want to proceed, but it will be a second read at the next meeting.
If there are no questions or concerns, we'll just move on to the second reading next time. All right, item number 7, an ordinance accepting the 2024 amended budget. This would also be a first read.
Yep, similarly, it's first read, and the board can vote to signal their intent if they wish. Ultimately, you know, we've broken this down instead of having the lengthy line by line by line. What we've done is broken it down into the categories that make the budget for each department. Overall, the reason we're asking for an increase in our spending authority is through the year we've added the placer and the agenda software. There's been an increase in the legal costs. We've added the sidewalk. There's been an increase in the transfer between departments. Increase in cost for sewer and water supplies and services, mostly due to inflation, and additional work done, and then we've had an expansion in our planning efforts. So overall, that comes to about $350,723.26 between the original authorization and the current authorization. We are not seeking to spend any additional money. Ultimately, we want to hopefully coast in under this amount when we get to the end of the year. So again, looking to parks to kind of make sure that their costs stay as close under control as possible, and all departments have been asked not to engage in any additional spending for the rest of the year.
Is that also due to, it seems like we are down revenue? I think I saw, look your budget, I carpus today, so.
Yeah, there you go. Which one do you need me to go to?
Water and sewer, the percentage,
Yeah,
where you're at.
they are down. Let's see, actually,
I was thinking that we were 60% revenue and 80% of the year is gone, or something close to that.
I'll do some different math on that. Well, of course it's not gonna be. They were off though. I think water revenue was projected considerably higher. I think, had you planned that the rates might have gone in?
Yeah, it was originally thought that the rates would go up the first year, but they didn't. It was later in the year, we getting increases, so.
I mean, that would be part of why we're having to see a budget adjustment, is because that has taken a while. I'd say my vote is gonna be, it is what it is, and you gotta do what you gotta do.
Fortunately, there is an element of that to this.
So are we voting on this or?
We don't need to vote.
He asked
It
what our,
signals intent, but
That's what I thought,
it's
yeah.
not necessary to vote on the first read.
That's what.
It's helpful if you guys are just a flat no, then we know not to necessarily
Not to
proceed any
move forward.
further. We can come up with a different plan. Voting's not necessarily on the first.
All right. Item number 8 then, an ordinance of the city of Willard establishing a water advisory board.
This one will be a second read. This of course establishes the water advisory board. It gives them some similar responsibilities to the park advisory board. Listening to citizen complaints, being a voice for the customer, looking maybe for different solutions to problems that we may be facing and so forth. So far, I believe we have 2 applications for out-of-town positions. Oh, we have 3 now. Yes, we have a full house. So we have 3 for in town and 2 for out of town, right? Or 3 for out of town and 2 in town.
Yeah, we have a total of 4, 2 of each, I think.
Oh, okay.
And then, but the one hasn't sent it back yet, but he's,
Okay, so we may be on the
Committed to
verge of
sending
having
it
a
back,
full board. I would anticipate them with approval to take seats next year. We'll have to get appointments made. The initial ordinance calls for their longer terms initially for some of the positions to ensure they stagger. Thereafter, there'll be staggered positions going forward. So I look forward to engaging with them, and then they have Trevor available some meetings as well to discuss some of their concerns, see if we can bring the community into the fold and discuss concerns, ultimately is the goal.
Good idea. If there are no questions, we can move to the second read.
An ordinance of the city of Willard establishing a water advisory board.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance as read.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villiers?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9. An ordinance of the city of Willard, Missouri, amending Title 7 Utilities, Chapter 705 Water Rates, Article 2 Water Rates.
This will be a second read as well if the board approves. If the board does approve, you will need to agree on the rate and the effective date that you wish to implement. And of course, just kind of a recap, I guess, on the last session, we had talked about a rate with a 10% surcharge for out of city, and then a flat rate regardless of location to the city.
Correct. And I don't think, I remember certainly correct, I don't think we discussed as a group about whatever is decided about when we would make it effective. I knew we had talked about, some of us had talked about, making that happen. If that's the route that it goes, something after the year, after the holiday season, so it wouldn't have an impact on
And we
the holiday
did
season.
intentionally leave that spot blank on the draft ordinance, so you can pick one of the two ordinances. There's two in the packet for each sewer and water. One with a flat, one with a 10%, but both have a blank, so you can choose your date that you wish to make it effective with. At this point, if you choose to go with the new year, I can't imagine for the life of me that 1 or 2 months would make a massive difference in the revenue vote, and if it did, we can probably put it off for a month or two on the back end, so I don't think there's going to be a reason not to wait if you wanted to.
So the last meeting, Joyce had made the motion. Do you want to recap the motions, or do you guys, do you want to start all over again, or go with
You guys are pretty
what
split
prevailed
in,
last time? I don't know if there were any changes or not, because as far as tonight goes, it'll have to be a vote of 4. Otherwise, we start over again until we get other aldermen here. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to.
Well, I'll start my
yours again and
my
see where it
defense. Start my defense.
I don't know that we need to rehash the material
I
unless you want to, or
I'll
just
real
make the
quick,
motion. What you did.
both rate structures that were presented were designed to create the revenue stream necessary. Regardless of what method you choose, it's an art as much as it is a science. So we will have to review this regardless of what you do. And the ordinance does bake in there a requirement that we do review this annually. I'd like to believe, the community will have an easy time accepting a 75-cent increase than they will a $10 increase. So it's important that we don't stop doing this now we started. I think having the advisory board in place will help with that process, because there'll be a group that can look at this stuff and provide some transparency to the community from a more independent perspective. And they may spot some things that we go, oh yeah, maybe that is an angle we need to look at as well. So I would propose that while we won't do any necessary rate changes in 6 months, I'll propose we at least take another look in 6 months just to see where we're at, so we can give the community a heads up a little ahead of when we do our more official rate study, which I plan to do in-house rather than spending an analyst. And that'll also be something that I can bounce back and forth with the advisory board when the time comes. But that being said, ultimately both models presented, it was believed that they would provide the necessary revenue structures for our planned capital expenses.
Balls in your court.
So I have reached out to several in-city residents, and everyone that I spoke with was for the differential. And one of the comments that you made, Casey, was we're one-Willard, but we're not. We are not one-Willard as in the school district, because as an example, if I live outside of the city, I pay school taxes to the city or to the school district. And if I live across the street and I'm not paying that tax, I then get to pay a tuition. So the same thing kind of applies with the city. There is an additional, probably not much, Carolyn or Wes can jump in at any time, but there are incurred expenses that happen to house Emily in this building that I'm sure, as much as we try to prorate those expenditures, we don't capture them all. So the in-city tax dollar then pays to subsidize that part of the program. So it, as well as when you drive out to whatever area, and again, I get, well, I live across the street. You live across the street, but you don't pay city taxes. So that's where I see that is a little different than the school system, because if I live across the street, I get to pay tuition because I don't pay school tax.
Where they don't allow that.
Even more so. So I live across the street and now my kid has to go to Springfield. So I mean, it's just, like I said, no, in Springfield, if you live outside of the tax-paying basis, wherever the line is, it doesn't matter where the line is that you live across the street from it, you have to pay the tuition because you're not paying the tax. And so that's where I feel like it's just a little bit different, that yes, it's one utility company, but there are taxes that we as in-town citizens, we pay. And again, while Carolyn and Wes and all of the people try their very best to distribute the cost, I'm sure there are some costs that are not distributed that are funded by taxpayer dollars that are paying city tax. So again, I had an opportunity at a couple of different functions over the last 2 weeks to ask people, and they just happened to all be in-town citizen. It was either that or I have my own well or my own septic. But I have asked, you know, what's your opinion, what's your thoughts? And again, the citizen input that I got, even though they may not be here, the citizen input that I got was 100%. They felt there should be a differential, but, so that's just my 2 cents worth on that.
I still firmly believe that it is a community water supply, it is a community sewer supply, and everybody should be charged the same rate.
So this,
We would be
for
the
sake
only
of-
community in the communities surrounding us that do that.
For the sake of the record, will you make a motion?
I make a motion that we select the water rate that is the 10% differential.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have the first and the second for the 10%. Alderman Bellier? No. Alderman Keene?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
No.
Okay, so as I understand it from our council now, then we will start this process over in 2 weeks. We'll put it back on the agenda.
I believe do we have to stop all the way?
No, we can do the first, we can put it on the agenda and do a first and second read.
I'm gonna have to, so I maybe misspoke earlier because I was thinking of just in general an ordinance, that would be fine, but because the sewer and water rates do require hearing, public hearing, I'm gonna have to double check with Nate on that, because I don't know if we have to have a new hearing because it's a new ordinance now. Hopefully not, because it would save a lot of time not to, but I don't know if we might have to do it in another hearing, so I'll double check on that, but in general. So, because the statute requires a public hearing on it.
Okay. Moving on to item number 10. An ordinance of the City of Wheeler, Missouri, amending Title 7 Utilities, Chapter 710 Sewer Use and Sewer Rates, Article 7 Wastewater Charges and Rates. Same discussion?
Discussion's gonna be similar.
Somebody want to make a vote? Or a motion, I should say.
I make a motion, again, due to citizen input, that we select the rate as a 10% increase, or differential, not increase.
I'll second.
Here we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier? No. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
No.
Thank you.
All right, item number 11, an ordinance to establish a reimbursement policy for the city employees by adding a new subsection to Title 1 Government Code, Chapter 117 Personnel and Safety Manuals.
This will be second read, establishing more good policies for reinvestment processes for the city.
If there are no questions, can we have a motion? Or go ahead and have the second read, Julie.
An ordinance to establish a reimbursement policy for city employees by adding a new subsection to Title I Government Code, Chapter 117 Personnel and Safety Manuals.
Make a motion that we accept the ordinance as read.
Second. Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier? Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alright. Item number 12, an ordinance to establish a training and conference policy for city employees by adding a new subsection to Title I Government Code, Chapter 117 Personnel and Safety Manuals. This is also the second reading. If there are no questions, go ahead and second read, Janice.
An ordinance to establish a training and conference policy for city employees by adding a new subsection to Title I Government Code, Chapter 117 Personnel and Safety Manuals. I make a motion that we approve the ordinance as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier? Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 13, an ordinance of the City of Wheeler, Missouri, imposing a local sales tax for police department purposes at the rate of 0.5% pursuant to the authority granted by 94.510 RSMO and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for approval at an election to be held on the 8th day of April 2025.
Well, Tom is here if he wants to speak on this some as well, but ultimately, cost of equipment for policing is going up. Springfield just, maybe a week and a half ago at this point, let us know that their tax issue passed with the voters, which they will be using to support salary increases for Springfield police officers. We were already kind of behind the curve as far as getting our salaries competitive with the area, so that just puts further pressure on, needing to shore up our police department funding. At this point, I believe it's approximately $900,000 of our $1.9 million budget went towards, our general fund budget went towards policing, when they put this memo together, and you'll see that on your desk. So really it's a case of either taking from other areas or putting it to the voters and requesting money be earmarked in a general sales tax for the police department to help shore that up further and provide some of the additional things that they need in addition to the more important salary question. We cannot, there is another option that we cannot exercise at this time, which is a dedicated public safety tax. We have to be, I guess, on a special list for that on the bill at the state level. Certainly something we can pursue in the longer term, but that wouldn't fix the problem in the more immediate term. So with this proposal, it will be on the April ballot, provided the board agrees to and approves the ordinance timely enough that we can get it to the county by December 31st at 5 p.m. The only potential change to the ballot language in front of you would be formatting styles that the county clerk may advise us on. Sometimes they like circles, sometimes they like squares, and sometimes they like underlines. So other than that, the wording should remain about the same. And again, that would be PD earmarked tax, even though it's general revenue, it would be earmarked for PD.
So this would just be a first, so if you guys wanna signal whether or not you wanna move forward with this.
So I just have a question with the, memo from Lauber. Are we already at the 2%? Is there a 2% cap?
2% total. With there's 2% cap on general. Right now we're at 1, I believe, 1, and this would put us at 1.5. That does not mean if you earmark it today for PD, that does not mean future boards couldn't come back and change that earmark and redirect. Particularly if we ever got successful in getting a public safety tax permission from the state level. That might be an option to change things around down the road, or if we grow and revenues look better, we might change things up there. But, earmarking it now doesn't necessarily bind you from changing things in the future, but I think at this point it is important that steps are taken to shore up the salaries of our police officers. We're considered a safe community, and I think one way to keep that is to keep our police force strong.
Any other questions for the chief or Wes? All right, item number 14, an ordinance revising and replacing section 400.510 of the city code. This one's also a second. Mike, you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, so this is the mixed use ordinance, and I've talked to several people with concerns on the ordinance. The ordinance is not designed, it's a rezone. It's not designed for multiple property owners. So your existing subdivision cannot be rezoned mixed use because you have multiple property owners involved. It would not qualify for this. This is strictly a mechanism for a developer to come in and have a little bit of flexibility in their development, but their upfront costs are more because they have to present everything upfront to you. So, among all your late nights of reviewing budget, I hope you take a look at it to see what's in there. It's definitely not perfect. The one plus that it does have is it's a 3-tier review. It's reviewed by staff, it's reviewed by planning commission, and it's reviewed by the board of aldermen. So hopefully by the time it gets to you, it's thoroughly vetted, concerns are addressed, and hopefully you're just dealing with the cream, But are there any questions on the ordinance? Anybody has any questions or concerns?
Okay. An ordinance revising and replacing section 400.510 of the city code.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance as read.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard?
Yes.
Alderman Keane?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 15, sanitary sewer project status.
Well, on the 94 lift station at Force Main, the process of submitting our second reimbursement request for US EPA. The design of the Force Main lift station modifications, erosion control, and electrical are about 85% complete, and all plans and specs should be complete by the end of December. On the Meadows, we're awaiting a reply to our construction permit application from Missouri DNR. They have issued land disturbance permit. Review with the city of Springfield's completed and accepted. We do have to have a response from the FAA because we're in the operational area of the airport where we connect to the lift station. It's kind of redundant. Buried pipes will not affect aircraft, but the rules are the rules. So they will send us a response shortly. Plans have been submitted to Greene County Environmental Department for review. And we're also gonna request some pricing from Palmerton Parish for some limited geotechnical survey along the line of the route, or out of the line, looking for rock pinnacles. Get an idea of what we might encounter there. Not a complete comprehensive, it's gonna be kind of a, what's reasonable to probe here and see where top rock is based on the surface terrain and geology.
I can give them a hint, I bet they're running some limestone.
Pardon?
I bet they're running into some limestone.
Yeah. Thing is, we'd like to not run into it at 3 feet. We'd like for it to be about 15
We
to
probably
20.
just saved us $10,000, didn't we?
Pardon?
We probably just saved $10,000 by letting them know that.
Yeah. And, easement documents are completed and I'll begin contacting property owners, probably immediately after the Thanksgiving holiday. With regards to financing, Wes, Carolyn and I met with, Representative Piper Sandler on Thursday, discussed financial amounts, timing, reimbursement resolutions on both projects. Given our data that we're supposed to, or are going to present us a pro forma on some increments in financing and interest and term of note, 10 years, 15 years, stuff like that. So we get that, we'll kind of have an idea of what we're looking at. And we can go out for bid here on the meadows on the 1st of January. We'll have a much more comfortable feel on what construction costs are. We haven't done one in a while, they've kind of been all over the place. We'll see how hungry contractors are or how, not hungry they are, and adjust our financial plans accordingly. That's all I have. Any questions, be glad to answer.
Thank you. Item number 16, city administrator remarks.
One of them I already did. Let's see. So we've got MediaCom. We had a meeting last Tuesday. Ahead of some rather large and noticeable damage to our sewer system at Miller and Melville. Oh, excuse me. So we've reached out to MediaCom, shared our frustration. They were very responsive. We had a meeting set up within a couple of days. Looney was under a stop work order until we had a chance to meet. And I think that it was, I think it bore fruit. I think we had, you know, the contractor was quite attentive to the concerns of the community. They have been working today, I've noticed, in the Hoffman Hills area, cleaning up all the rubble they've left behind. And hopefully going forward we'll see more work, less damage. That's the hope. Again, I think I've mentioned it before. Other communities apparently are experiencing the exact same problems. So I'm happy to say we're well ahead of the curve as far as other communities. And I think we've built a good relationship with MediaCom as well in addressing it. So again, hopefully that'll bear fruit, but you know, we're just a few days in at this point, so we'll see after Thanksgiving holiday. AB, the sidewalk over there, AB, of course the work there was paused, that little section. MoDOT had come in, you know, we had to get permits, and that became a thing. We got a 90-day permit fairly quickly, surprisingly quickly. But then the contractor who was doing the work out there presented new charges, which have been presented to Nate for review. The way I think we're initially looking at it is it was additional work that was completed without a change order approved by the board. Time's essentially a wasting, so the Public Works Department has started forming up and they're going to try and lay the concrete themselves. Challenge now is it's getting cold, and concrete doesn't like the cold. So there's always a potential we'll lay the concrete, it won't necessarily be insulated well, it may crack next year, but at least the project will be finished and we'll be prepared to maybe take in a section or two that we have to do again. I think one example of some work we have concerns over there, buying for 8 truncated domes, and there's only 7 there, and then they said on Facebook they only did 7, so it just seems maybe there might be some numbers that need to be better understood between both parties. Trevor is working on building new relationships with other concrete finishes in the area, so maybe we have options in the future if this one doesn't pan out. But ultimately, if the validity of the charges is verified, the board can still choose not to accept them because it was unauthorized work as far as you guys are concerned. So we'll present more on that as the information comes available. The city app for our new website, that's moving ahead now as of today. They estimate it'll be about 3 weeks, and then it'll be able to appear on the App Store and the Google Play Store. Be another way for people to get information for the city. People will notice we've been putting a lot on there. Hopefully not too much that's annoying them, but we're trying to get information out there as it comes up, transparency information. We're watching Facebook and little comments out there, making sure we're checking on things that concern people, getting responses up there as fast as we can to nip those in the bud. It seems to be doing well. I've had some positive feedback about that. Community transparency is appreciated, so we'll keep that up as best we can. Be another good thing for the PIO if that's the route we go. And then we're talking about a policy draft for when conflicts arise due to community concerns, and when to recuse and when not. Reviewed that with Nate. I completed a draft. He suggested it may already be covered in the current ethical ordinances that we file. However, if the board would like me to still draft a separate standalone policy, he did say we can do that and spell out exactly what you want. So I can proceed with a draft just for discussion. And then,
I think it'd be a good idea if we had our own. I know we're all bound by the ethics code, but it'd be nice to have our own in-house.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in those scenarios, it's easy to, think that maybe there's not a conflict, that somebody else perceives there's a conflict, so.
Okay.
Be good to have that top of mind, and when those votes come about, that there's somebody in place that hopefully will have that 360 view where they can recognize either a real conflict or a perceived conflict and bring up the discussion.
I think Nate was happy with the draft, so what I'll do is
It'll look good.
we'll just put that on the agenda for next time and generate discussion, and if you guys like it, we'll get it first and second read into the books. That is all I have.
Thank you. About any unfinished business, item 18.
Facilitate the first, Mayor.
Oh dang, why don't we skip that one? 17, new business. We'll start having David sit right next to me though, so you can keep track of this.
I'll start hitting you
Like Holly used to, yeah. Holly used to hit me. No new business, any new business? All in one. Item number 18, any unfinished business? All right, 19. Recess the open session and open the closed session pursuant to RSMO section 610.021, number 1 legal, and pursuant to RSMO section 610.022, real estate. Go ahead.
Make motion to recess the open session. To close the open session, open and close session pursuant to RSMO section 610.021, subsection 1 legal, and pursuant to RSMO section 610.022, subsection 2 real estate.
Nice, very good, very good.
Okay.
First and second.
Yes, we do. Alderman Miller. Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson. Thank you.
During the meeting.
Second. Have a first and a second. Alderman Villiers. Yes. Alderman King.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.